What if I told you a woman in Nepal could marry 3 men? Nepal is the ultimate destination for mountain lovers and thrill seekers chasing the chance to conquer the roof of the world. But beyond Everest, the nation's towering pride, lies a story far more wild and surprising. It's the birthplace of the Buddha, a land where dogs are honored in sacred rituals, and home to some of the fiercest mercenary warriors the world has ever known. What's the full story? And what else is waiting to be discovered? Watch the full video to uncover Nepal's hidden truths. Fact number 3 will leave you speechless. 15. A land like no other, Nepal's untamed spirit. Tucked between China's vast north and India's vibrant south, Nepal is a rugged treasure spanning just 147,181 square kilometers, about the size of Arkansas. Yet, 3/4 of this land bows to the Himalayas' towering might, where Everest stands as a silent challenge to the brave. Ever heard of a calendar leaping 56 years ahead? Their calendar, Bikram Sambat, sprints 56 years ahead. Our 2025 is their 2082, a twist that tickles the mind. Why does this distant land tug at our hearts? It's their underdog grit, thriving in a place so wild and untamed, beckoning us to ponder their lives, their stories. Stick with me, because we're about to uncover the next mind-blowing facts about Nepal that'll leave you amazed, maybe even a little changed. You won't believe what's coming next. 14. The living goddess of Nepal, chosen as a child, forgotten as a woman. In the winding alleys of old Kathmandu lives a child unlike any other. She doesn't play in the streets or go to school. They call her the Kumari. Chosen before she has even lost her baby teeth, this young girl is believed to be the living vessel of the goddess Taleshu. Her presence is said to protect the nation, bless the people, and preserve harmony between the spiritual and earthly realms. The selection is no fairy tale. It is long, ancient, and deeply mysterious. The girl must come from the newer Shakya caste, her horoscope must align with that of the king, and she must pass 37 demanding tests set by religious elders. One test requires her to remain calm and fearless during ritual animal sacrifices. No flinching, no tears, just silence. But the most remarkable test comes at the end. In a dark, quiet room, surrounded by a set of ritual objects, some of which once belonged to previous Kumaris, she is asked to choose with absolute certainty the items touched by the goddess herself. This test, strikingly similar to the one used in Tibet to recognize a reincarnated Dalai Lama, is considered the final sign of her divine connection. If she succeeds, she leaves her family and enters the Kumari Gar, where she becomes both sacred and isolated. Adorned in crimson, carried in procession, her feet never touch the ground. With her very first menstruation, the goddess is believed to leave her body. That single moment marks the end of her divinity. Overnight, she goes from being a living goddess to just another girl, at least in the eyes of the world. Some people still whisper that marrying a former Kumari brings misfortune, as if the sacredness she once carried somehow turned into a curse. But what about her? What happens to a girl who spent her childhood worshipped, isolated, untouchable? That question still lingers in the quiet courtyards and ancient temples of Kathmandu. If a young girl can be a goddess, what other surprising creatures do Nepalis honor? Let's find out. 13. Why Nepalis feed crows and drink cow urine during this sacred week. What if I told you there's a place where dogs wear flower garlands, cows are treated like royalty, and even crows are fed before breakfast because to disrespect them could mean the end of the world? Tihar, sometimes called the Nepali version of Diwali, is a 5-day celebration of light, life, and the sacred bond between people and animals. It honors the quiet companions who walk beside us every day. It begins with a day unlike any other. Families wake early and place offerings of food on rooftops and ledges. These gifts are not for the gods, but for the crows. In Nepali tradition, crows are believed to carry messages from the spirit world. They are said to drink the water of life, and if they were ever to vanish, life on earth would come to an end. So on this day, crows are fed with care and respect. The next morning is devoted to dogs. Loyal, watchful, and faithful to the end, dogs are believed to guide souls to the afterlife. On this day, people mark their foreheads with red tikas, place garlands of marigold around their necks, and serve them plates of rice and meat. Whether stray or beloved pet, every dog is treated with love. No barking is ignored, no tail goes unnoticed. Then comes the most sacred day of all, the Day of the Cow. In Hindu belief, the cow is not just an animal. She is a mother, a provider, a symbol of purity. People give her tikas, flowers, and food. Some even drink a spoonful of cow urine, believing it purifies the body and soul. Cow dung is sprinkled around doorways to invite blessings from the goddess of wealth. To some, these customs may seem unusual, but in Nepal, they reflect something deep and enduring. During the days of Tihar, the bond between humans and animals is not only remembered, it is celebrated with gratitude and devotion. 12. What no one tells you about the real heroes of Everest. If reaching the top of Mount Everest is a death-defying triumph for most, imagine doing it while carrying someone else's life on your back. That is what the Sherpas face every single season. Each year, hundreds of climbers chase the dream of standing atop the highest point on Earth. And every year, some never return. The mountain shows no mercy. It kills through sudden storms, invisible falls, thin air, and cold that burns like fire. Since the early expeditions in 1922, Everest has taken over 300 lives. But behind nearly every successful summit stands a Sherpa. They move first, they carry more, and they rarely make the headlines. Most people spend years training for a single climb. Sherpas may do it 10, 20, even 30 times in a single season. They carry food, oxygen, tents, and ropes while guiding others through a place where one misstep means death. They know the mountain better than anyone, but that knowledge does not make it less deadly. Sherpas are born into the clouds. Their bodies have adapted to the low oxygen, giving them a natural edge. But even the strongest lungs cannot stop an avalanche or falling ice. Still they climb, not for fame, not for record books, but because it is their calling, it is their home, and it is their burden. They are the quiet force behind Everest, the true conquerors, and too often, the forgotten ones. So while some risk their lives guiding others to the top of the world, what else lies hidden in the heart of Nepal? The next fact might just change how you think about this country. 11. No jealousy, no fights, a family like you've never seen. In the misty hills and isolated villages of Nepal's Himalayan region, some families follow a tradition that turns the idea of marriage and fatherhood upside down. It is called polyandry, and in these rugged lands, it is more than custom. It is survival. In the high-altitude district of Humla, and in parts of Dolpa and Mustang, this practice is still quietly followed. Here, a woman may marry not just one man but several, usually brothers from the same family. The eldest brother selects the bride, and over time, his younger brothers join the marriage as they reach adulthood. This means one woman may have 2, 3, or even 4 husbands living under the same roof. The reason is simple. With less than 20% of Nepal's land suitable for farming, splitting property between sons would quickly leave families with nothing. So instead, they share one wife and keep the land undivided, ensuring that the family stays fed and the land stays intact. In this unusual structure, roles are clearly defined. The brothers rotate household chores and childcare. They share work, food, and responsibility. The wife manages the household budget and serves as the center of family life. And when children are born, they do not know who their biological father is. Instead, they simply call every man in the house Dad. The men do not feel jealousy or rivalry. They live together peacefully, care for each other, and rarely argue, even while sharing the same wife.
कहिले आफै बनतिर गयो भने दाइले घर व्यवहार चलाइहाल्नुहुन्छ, कहिले दाइ यताउति गयो भने म घर व्यवहार चलाइहाल्छु।
उसको छोराछोरी र के रे श्रीमान श्रीमती र बहुपति भाइ जति छन्।
While this may sound strange to outsiders, within these remote communities, it is a practical and deeply rooted system. There is little jealousy, only cooperation. But Nepal's family traditions are not without struggle. 10. Gurkhas, Nepal's fierce warriors of global legend. While Russia has Wagner, the US has Blackwater, and Australia has Unity Resources, Nepal's elite contribution is the legendary Gurkha soldiers. Among the most feared and respected mercenary forces in the world, Nepal's Gurkhas stand apart. Known for their motto, "Better to die than to be a coward," Gurkhas are famed for their bravery, discipline, and unmatched skill in combat. Though many of these warriors stand at a modest height of around 5 feet 3 inches, they've struck fear into enemies for over 2 centuries. The name Gurkha traces back to the ancient Gurkha kingdom, which later unified Nepal under King Prithvi Narayan Shah, the founder of the modern Gurkha force. Their military prowess first stunned the British during the Anglo-Nepalese War, where the British faced heavy resistance. Impressed by their valor, the British East India Company began recruiting them as part of the British Army's non-regular forces. Armed with rifles and their iconic curved blade, the kukri, Gurkhas served in campaigns across India, Burma, Afghanistan, Tibet, Malta, and China. During World War I, more than 200,000 Gurkhas fought for the British. Despite only 20,000 casualties, their impact was immense. Their dedication earned them 26 Victoria Cross medals, the British Empire's highest military honor. Today, Gurkhas remain a symbol of loyalty, courage, and unwavering discipline, a proud legacy from the mountains of Nepal that continues to serve with distinction worldwide. If you're inspired by Nepal's stories of courage and tradition, share this video with friends who love adventure. 9. Dal Bhat Power, the meal that fuels a nation. Dal Bhat, made of lentil soup, dal, and steamed rice, bhat, is more than just a daily meal in Nepal. It is the lifeblood of the culture, eaten by millions every day, often twice a day. For farmers in the fields, porters on mountain trails, and families in remote villages, dal bhat is what keeps them going. It is rich in calories, protein, and carbohydrates, providing essential energy, especially in Nepal's rugged, high-altitude terrain. In local eateries and roadside stalls, a full plate of dal bhat typically costs just $1 to $2, making it an affordable source of nutrition for both locals and budget travelers. Many meals also come with seasonal vegetables, pickles, and sometimes a small portion of meat, turning a simple dish into a balanced one. The popular saying "Dal Bhat Power 24-hour" sums up how essential this food is. It is not only nourishing but also practical. Dal can last several days if kept cool, and rice can be easily reheated. In remote regions where food must be stretched and preserved, dal bhat remains a reliable source of comfort, strength, and identity for the Nepalese people. 8. Why thousands of expats are moving to Nepal's capital. Kathmandu, the capital of Nepal, is more than just the country's political center. It has quietly become a global hub for expats seeking a life of adventure, culture, and simplicity. Recent estimates suggest that between 30,000 and 40,000 foreign nationals live in Nepal, and the vast majority choose Kathmandu as their home. What draws them in? First, the cost of living. In areas like Thamel or Patan, rent for a modest one-bedroom apartment can range from just $150 to $400 per month. Street food is plentiful and cheap, with a hearty plate of momos or dal bhat often costing under $2. For under $150 a month, many expats live comfortably, surrounded by mountains, temples, and rich cultural life. But Kathmandu is not just about affordability. It is a gateway to the Himalayas and a spiritual magnet. Iconic landmarks like Swayambhunath and Buddhanath draw thousands of seekers every year. Yoga, meditation, and trekking thrive here, creating a unique fusion of tradition and global influence. The expat community is surprisingly diverse, with residents from India, the United States, the United Kingdom, France, Germany, and more. International cafes, bookshops, and co-working spaces reflect this blend of East and West. However, while daily life is relaxed, cultural respect is essential. Eating beef, for instance, can deeply offend local Hindu values. Kathmandu may feel laid back, but it still holds tightly to its spiritual heart. 7. The only flag like this on Earth, Nepal's triangular wonder. Nepal is the only country in the world with a national flag that is neither rectangular nor square. Instead, it features a distinctive combination of two stacked triangles, each with its own deep meaning. Officially adopted on the 16th of December, 1962, the flag contains three main colors: red, blue, and white. The crimson red symbolizes the bravery of the Nepalese people and also represents the rhododendron, Nepal's national flower. The blue border stands for peace and harmony among the country's many ethnic groups and religions. White represents purity. The flag also features two important symbols, the moon and the sun. The moon reflects the cool weather of the Himalayas and the gentle, calm nature of the Nepalese people, symbolizing longevity and serenity. The sun represents fierce determination and the enduring strength of the nation, showing that the Nepalese will always defend their homeland. Together, these celestial symbols reflect Nepal's eternal spirit and timeless resilience. 6. Buddha was born here, not in India. Many people mistakenly believe that the Buddha was born in India. In fact, Siddhartha Gautama, who would become the Buddha, was born in Lumbini, a small town in southern Nepal. This sacred site is now a UNESCO World Heritage Site and one of the world's most important Buddhist pilgrimage destinations. At the heart of Lumbini stands the Maya Devi Temple, built at the exact spot where Queen Maya Devi is believed to have given birth to the Buddha over 2,500 years ago. The temple, surrounded by peaceful gardens and ancient ruins, draws millions of visitors each year. In 2024 alone, Lumbini welcomed over 1.17 million visitors. This was a 17.36% increase from the year before, and shows growing global interest in the site. Interestingly, though Lumbini is a cornerstone of Buddhist history, Nepal is a majority Hindu country. About 81.3% of the population identifies as Hindu, while Buddhists make up around 9%. Despite this difference, both religions coexist peacefully, and many Nepalis blend traditions from both into their daily lives. Visiting Lumbini is not only a powerful spiritual journey but also a reminder that Nepal, not India, is the true birthplace of the Buddha. 5. Everest isn't the only challenge. The real cost of life in Nepal. Life in Nepal is simple, resilient, and surprisingly affordable. For many, it is one of the cheapest countries on Earth, where a full meal can cost less than a cup of coffee in the West. In Kathmandu or the mountain villages, a plate of momo dumplings or steaming dal bhat can cost as little as 100 to 250 Nepali rupees, which is roughly 80 cents to $2. These meals offer warmth, nutrition, and comfort without straining the pocket. Lodging is just as modest. A night in a basic guest house ranges from 700 to 2,500 rupees, or about 5 to $20, depending on the region. In trekking zones like Lukla or Namche Bazaar, these guest houses provide not just shelter but also meals and hot tea for travelers braving the trails to Everest Base Camp. But beyond the affordability lies a climate that demands toughness. In the Everest region, winter temperatures regularly drop below -20 degrees Celsius, which is about -4 degrees Fahrenheit. At the base camp itself, located at 5,364 meters above sea level, oxygen levels are only about 50% of what they are at sea level. Wind chills can push the real feel even lower, making life there brutally cold. Yet through all this, the people of Nepal endure. Over 80% of the population lives in rural areas, and many rely on farming and tourism to survive. In the face of freezing nights and steep terrain, their generosity shines. For every dollar you spend, it is the human warmth you remember, not just the low cost of living. Have you ever been to Nepal? Please, share your story below. 4. The Himalayan nation that no empire could conquer. While much of Asia fell under the control of colonial empires, Nepal stands out as one of the few nations that was never colonized. This small mountainous country resisted the British Empire at a time when almost all of South Asia came under foreign rule. Nepal's strategic diplomacy, combined with the natural barrier of the Himalayas, helped it maintain independence throughout the colonial era. Even during the Anglo-Nepalese War, 1814 to 1816, although Nepal lost some territory, it retained its sovereignty and continued to govern itself. This rare independence shaped the unique identity of modern Nepal. With no colonial power imposing foreign language, laws, or customs, Nepal preserved its cultural heritage in a way many colonized nations could not. Traditional festivals like Dashain and Tihar are still celebrated nationwide, untouched by outside influence. Nepali is still the primary language, and ancient architectural styles continue to define its cities. Traditional clothing also reflects this preservation. Men wear the Dara Suruwal, while women wear saris or kurtas, garments that carry deep cultural meaning and are proudly displayed during weddings and holidays. These traditions remain intact not because of isolation, but because of resilience. Today, Nepal's independence is a point of national pride. Despite being sandwiched between two giants, India and China, it has maintained a unique identity and political autonomy. Nepal's history is not only about survival but about strength. It remains a living example of a nation that, through both strategy and spirit, defied colonization and continues to stand tall. 3. Breaking a taboo. What happens when you serve beef in Kathmandu? Just like India, cows are considered sacred animals, particularly in Hinduism, which is the dominant religion in Nepal. The cow symbolizes purity, fertility, and nonviolence, making it a revered figure in religious and cultural practices. As a result, the consumption of beef is prohibited and seen as deeply disrespectful to Hindu beliefs. Nepal's legal framework bans the slaughter of cows, and eating beef is considered an offense against religious customs. During Hindu festivals, cows are often honored with ceremonies, adorned with tikka red powder, and given special treatment that reflects their spiritual significance. Despite the country's official stance against beef, many non-Hindu communities, particularly those from ethnic groups such as the Nuer or Tamang, have historically consumed beef in private or within their own communities. In 2015, a restaurant in Kathmandu, popular with both locals and tourists, made headlines for openly serving beef. The restaurant's actions sparked public outcry from Hindu communities because it violated long-held religious and cultural norms. This incident highlighted the cultural clash between Nepal's traditional Hindu values and the diverse practices of its multi-ethnic population. The respect for cows is tied to the principle of ahimsa, or non-violence, which encourages Hindus to avoid causing harm to any living being. If you ever visit Nepal, avoid eating beef or harming animals, as it is considered deeply disrespectful to local customs and beliefs. 2. Nepal's quiet rules. Why public affection can get you in trouble. In Nepal, a simple kiss in public can offend more than 1,000 years of tradition. Nepal is a land of deep spiritual tradition and cultural pride. While its mountains and temples attract millions, understanding local etiquette is key to a respectful visit. Public displays of affection, such as hugging, kissing, or even holding hands, are generally frowned upon, especially in rural areas and around religious sites. Though locals may not say anything directly, such behavior can cause discomfort or be viewed as disrespectful. Modest dress is equally important. When visiting temples or villages, both men and women should cover their shoulders and knees. Wearing conservative clothing shows appreciation for Nepalese values, where modesty is linked to dignity and honor. Cultural respect also extends to body language. Always use your right hand when offering food, giving money, or shaking hands. The left hand is considered unclean in many parts of South Asia, including Nepal. Another essential custom: remove your shoes before entering homes or places of worship. Shoes are seen as dirty, and walking into sacred or personal spaces with them on is considered offensive. By observing these simple yet meaningful traditions, travelers not only avoid misunderstandings, but also build deeper, more respectful connections with the people of Nepal. If you're still watching, thank you. We truly appreciate you. We love exploring the world and sharing it with you. Stick around till the end of the video to discover even more fascinating facts about Nepal. 1. Beyond Everest. Discover the highest lake on Earth. Beyond the towering heights of Mount Everest, Nepal hides another breathtaking wonder, Tilicho Lake, the highest lake in the world. Sitting quietly at an elevation of 16,138 feet, or about 4,919 meters above sea level, this remote lake rests deep in the heart of the Annapurna mountain range. To get there, travelers take on the famous Annapurna Circuit, one of Nepal's most iconic trekking routes. Along the way, they pass snow-covered peaks, rocky trails, and crisp alpine air. Though the journey is challenging, the reward is unforgettable. At Tilicho, the waters are so clear they reflect the sky, while the surrounding mountains stand tall like ancient guardians. It's a place of peace, quiet, and natural beauty, perfect for those who still feel the pull of adventure, no matter their age. Tilicho Lake is more than just a destination. It's a reminder that some of the world's greatest wonders lie far from the crowds, waiting for those with the heart to find them. Thank you for watching until the end. We truly appreciate your time and interest in discovering new cultures with us. If you enjoyed this journey through Nepal's fascinating stories, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more. We have many more surprising and meaningful destinations to explore together.
No one wants to come here. India, a place people call filthy, chaotic, full of taboos and outdated beliefs. They say it's too crowded, too polluted, too impossible to understand. And after the plane crash that killed nearly 300 people just days ago, I truly believe India should never be a destination. But if you're brave enough to go, you better watch this first. Break these 15 taboos, and you might regret ever landing here. 1. Public affection. Why it's not allowed. You'll very rarely see couples kissing or hugging in public here. Why is that? Public displays of affection like kissing and hugging are viewed as highly inappropriate, especially in rural areas. This cultural norm stems from traditional values that emphasize modesty and respect for social boundaries. In many parts of India, holding hands or even sitting close to a partner in public can attract disapproving stares or worse, legal consequences. Some states have laws that prohibit public acts of affection, and violators can face fines or even arrest. While young people in urban areas may push the boundaries of public affection, rural communities often see these acts as disrespectful or immoral. However, the Kiss of Love protest, which emerged in 2015, sought to challenge these conservative views. Protesters, mostly young people, gathered to kiss in public spaces to advocate for the right to express love openly without fear of societal or legal repercussions. This protest sparked widespread debates about cultural values, freedom of expression, and the evolving nature of relationships in India. What about in your country? Is public affection like kissing and hugging allowed, or is it prohibited? Two, mannequins in bikinis are banned. Did you know that mannequins displaying lingerie or bikinis are banned in some places? This ban was introduced as a way to protect public morals and reduce sexual violence. The government justifies this action by claiming that such displays encourage objectification and can lead to inappropriate behavior. They argue that by restricting these mannequins, they are promoting modesty and moral integrity in public spaces. However, critics of the ban argue that it doesn't address the root causes of sexual violence. They believe that the problem lies deeper in societal attitudes and not in the display of clothing. If stores are affected by this ban, they adapt by finding alternative ways to display their products. Instead of using mannequins in lingerie, many stores turn to posters or images, showcasing their items in a less direct, more subtle manner. They may also rely on display racks or glass cabinets, moving away from mannequins altogether. In a country where over 30,000 rape cases are reported annually, equivalent to nearly 90 cases per day, according to the National Crime Records Bureau, taboos like these are, in my opinion, essential to address in order to promote safer and more respectful societal norms. 3. The left-handed sin, why it's forbidden. In India, the left hand is considered impure, and using it for certain tasks could be seen as a serious cultural misstep. Why? The left hand is traditionally reserved for less pleasant duties, like personal hygiene after using the restroom, making it closely associated with what is considered unclean. On the other hand, the right hand is held in high regard. It's the hand of respect and purity. It's used for eating, shaking hands, offering food, and even giving gifts. Imagine this. You're invited to a meal with locals, and you instinctively reach for your food with your left hand. The moment could feel awkward, as others may interpret it as disrespectful. This isn't just about habits, it's deeply ingrained in the culture. The right hand is seen as dignified, the one that symbolizes cleanliness and honor. So, what should you do if you're a foreigner visiting India? The simple rule is to always use your right hand for eating, passing objects, or greeting others. By doing so, you'll show respect for their traditions, avoiding any uncomfortable moments, and fitting in with their cultural expectations. The consequences of not following this simple gesture? You might unintentionally offend someone, and that's a situation you'd rather avoid. Four, asking about income, a social note. In Indian culture, discussing personal income is a serious taboo. Asking about someone's salary or how much they earn is considered intrusive and rude. Financial privacy is deeply ingrained in the country's traditional values, where money matters are kept discreet to maintain respect and dignity. Bringing up someone's income, even casually, can make others feel uncomfortable and may be seen as prying into personal affairs. One of the main reasons behind this cultural norm is the vast income disparity in India. The gap between the rich and the poor is significant, and people are often reluctant to discuss their earnings due to the societal judgment that comes with it. In many cases, even within the same company, two people in the same position may have salary differences of up to $500, depending on their Hindu caste or personal relationships. This further intensifies the discomfort around discussing income, as it highlights the deep-rooted social hierarchy and the inequality that exists. People avoid talking about their wealth or jobs openly, as doing so could be perceived as boastful or competitive. This cultural norm ensures that no one feels inferior or superior based on their economic status, fostering a sense of humility and unity. Remember this when working with Indians. If you bring up topics like income or wealth, you'll notice a shift in their behavior the very next day. Your relationship might even crumble as a result. Instead, focus on talking about family, experiences, or travel. By respecting this cultural boundary, you'll avoid discomfort and create stronger, more genuine connections. 5. Breaking caste norms, a dangerous act. Not following caste norms in India can lead to serious social consequences, even in modern times. Despite efforts to eradicate it, the caste system remains deeply ingrained in the fabric of society. Breaching caste norms can spark outrage and lead to public humiliation, particularly in rural areas or among older generations who strictly adhere to these traditions. For example, intercaste marriages continue to be challenging in some parts of India, where traditional caste norms are still influential. On May 2025, a tragic incident in Uttar Pradesh saw a woman from the Yadav community marry an inspector from the Patel community. Despite family support, the village panchayat imposed a social boycott on the woman's family, including heavy fines. This led to economic hardship, and authorities initially failed to act until the family appealed to senior officials. In some regions, certain castes are not allowed to perform specific duties or own particular types of property, and violating these rules can cause widespread social and economic repercussions. For instance, people from the Dalit caste, once known as untouchables, often faced discrimination and exclusion in public spaces or from certain job sectors, despite legal protections. Though there has been significant progress in challenging the caste system, caste-based discrimination is still an unfortunate reality, with approximately 25% of India's population being affected by some form of caste bias. These entrenched norms continue to shape everything from employment to marriage, and understanding them is crucial for anyone living or visiting India. 6. Referring to someone's caste, avoid this. Referring to someone's caste is considered a sensitive and controversial topic in many parts of India. While caste is an integral part of the country's social structure, discussing or bringing up someone's caste in everyday conversation is seen as inappropriate and disrespectful. Even though the caste system has been officially abolished, its effects are still deeply ingrained in society, and caste-based discrimination persists in various forms. In 2019, a prominent politician in Maharashtra faced backlash for making a public comment about a political opponent's caste. The remark sparked heated debates and protests, with many demanding accountability for perpetuating caste-based divisions. This event highlighted the tensions that caste still creates in public discourse and the political landscape. In India, especially among strangers or in professional environments, it is best to avoid asking about or mentioning someone's caste. Doing so can make people uncomfortable and can even lead to social exclusion. In fact, many modern efforts aim to reduce caste-based categorization and encourage a more inclusive society. It's important to respect people's privacy and focus on individual merits rather than societal labels. Avoiding caste discussions is a way to promote unity and social harmony. 7. Beef ban, where cows are friends. In India, the beef ban has become a highly controversial and divisive issue, particularly in states like Maharashtra, where the government has imposed strict restrictions on the slaughter and sale of cows and beef. The ban is deeply rooted in religious and cultural significance, as Hinduism, the dominant religion in India, considers cows sacred. For Hindus, consuming beef is seen as a violation of religious beliefs and moral values. In Maharashtra, the beef ban, which was enforced in 2015, prohibits the slaughter of cows and the sale of beef, carrying legal consequences for violators, including imprisonment and fines. The law has sparked widespread protests, particularly from Muslim and Dalit communities, who have historically consumed beef as part of their dietary traditions. These protests have ignited intense debates about religious freedom, cultural rights, and the impact of such bans on marginalized communities. Today, cows are often seen everywhere on the streets in India, peacefully wandering around markets, roads, and even residential areas. People feed them, care for them, and show great affection. In fact, it is rare to see anyone harm a cow, as it would be considered not only illegal, but also culturally disrespectful. It is not unusual to see locals set aside food for them, and many Indian families take pride in feeding them as part of their daily lives. The sight of cows roaming freely is commonplace, and the respect for these animals remains deeply ingrained in the cultural fabric of India. What do you think about this taboo? Share your thoughts below. 8. No dancers at bars. Dance bars are banned in certain regions due to the government's efforts to curb prostitution and maintain public order. While dance bars may seem like an innocent form of entertainment in many cultures, in some parts of India they are seen as contributing to moral decay and the exploitation of women. The government justifies this ban by arguing that such venues often provide an environment that encourages illegal activities such as prostitution and can lead to the exploitation and trafficking of women. In 2016, for example, the Maharashtra government imposed a complete ban on dance bars, following a controversial Supreme Court ruling that prohibited women from dancing in these bars. While the ruling aimed to address public safety concerns, it sparked widespread protests from bar owners and dancers who argued that the ban would result in the loss of legitimate employment. Violating the ban comes with severe legal penalties, including hefty fines and imprisonment for those involved in operating or performing in dance bars. In some cases, these penalties can be as high as 100,000 Indian rupees, around $1,300, and imprisonment for up to 5 years. The issue remains divisive, with some advocating for the revival of dance bars as legitimate venues of entertainment, while others argue that their existence perpetuates the objectification of women and illegal activities. 9. Alcohol in public. Keep it hidden. In India, alcohol advertising has been banned across most media platforms, including television, print, and online. This ban is deeply rooted in cultural and religious values. as Hinduism, Islam, and other faiths widely discourage the consumption of alcohol, viewing it as harmful to both individuals and society. Alcohol is associated with social problems, such as addiction, violence, and health issues, leading the government to enforce strict regulations to curb its usage. However, liquor brands have found ways to circumvent the ban by using surrogate advertising, promoting products like soda, juices, or mineral water with similar branding to their alcoholic products. This allows brands to maintain visibility while still adhering to the advertising laws. At the same time, alcohol consumption in public is heavily restricted, and public drinking is illegal. People may enjoy a cold beer or a glass of whiskey, but they are required to do so privately, either at home, in restaurants, or bars. Public consumption is strictly forbidden, and violators can face legal consequences. This cultural norm, stemming from religious and moral values, views alcohol consumption as something private or even shameful. As a result, drinking is a discreet activity. Beer and spirits can also be expensive in India, with a bottle of beer costing between 150 to 300 Indian rupees, about $2 to $4 in bars and restaurants, which is relatively high compared to average income levels. Despite the high cost and legal restrictions, people still find ways to enjoy their drink, often in private settings, balancing the tension between tradition and modernity. 10. Homosexuality, still a silent taboo. What happens when a society is forced to confront its deeply rooted beliefs about love and identity? In India, homosexuality and same-sex relationships are still a taboo, despite significant legal progress. For years, Section 377 of the Indian Penal Code criminalized same-sex relations, labeling them as immoral and illegal. Even after the landmark 2018 Supreme Court ruling decriminalizing homosexuality, the stigma surrounding LGBTQ+ rights remains pervasive. Same-sex marriage continues to be unrecognized, and many LGBTQ+ individuals still face discrimination and social exclusion. Traditional religious and cultural values heavily influence this resistance, with many viewing non-heterosexual relationships as unacceptable. Though legal victories, like the decriminalization of homosexuality, have been achieved, the process of social acceptance is slow. Discussions about sexual orientation and gender identity are often seen as inappropriate or taboo in public. Expressing LGBTQ+ relationships openly is still met with hostility or disapproval, making it difficult for individuals to be true to themselves. While progress has been made, the lingering taboo still hampers the full integration and acceptance of the LGBTQ+ community into Indian society. Curious about more surprising cultural taboos in India? Stay tuned, because the next ones might just challenge everything you thought you knew. 11. Don't addressing elders by first name. In many cultures, addressing elders by their first name without using any honorifics like Mr. or Ms. is considered disrespectful. In India, this practice is especially frowned upon. Elders are highly respected, and the way you address them reflects your respect for their age and experience. Using titles such as uncle or auntie is a common way to show deference and warmth, even if the person isn't directly related to you. This tradition is deeply rooted in the Indian value of respecting one's elders, which is a core part of the culture. Age is revered, and older generations are seen as holders of wisdom, knowledge, and experience. Therefore, addressing them properly is essential. For example, you would never address someone's father or mother by just their first name. Doing so would be seen as a breach of respect. In more formal settings, whether with strangers or those in higher positions, it's customary to address individuals with honorifics like sir or madam to show respect for their rank or status. Indians are highly respectful of authority and do not challenge those in higher positions. People are expected to follow orders and maintain a respectful distance from those in charge. Disrespecting a superior, whether it's an elder or a boss, is seen as unacceptable and can lead to severe social consequences. This adherence to hierarchy helps maintain order and ensures smooth interactions in both personal and professional settings. 12. Touching religious symbols, a taboo practice. Touching religious statues or altars is considered a serious offense, viewed as deeply disrespectful, especially in temples or sacred spaces. Religious traditions, primarily Hinduism, place immense importance on the sanctity of statues, altars, and religious symbols. These statues are not just decorative, they represent divine beings and are believed to embody the presence of gods and goddesses. Imagine stepping into a temple, a place filled with centuries of history, culture, and spirituality. The last thing you'd want to do is offend the people who revere these statues. Touching them, even accidentally, is seen as a violation of their sanctity. It's believed that doing so disturbs the divine energy that flows through these sacred objects. What happens if you do touch? You could not only offend local worshippers, but also unintentionally break the religious decorum upheld for generations. Respect for these idols goes beyond customs. It's about protecting the spiritual atmosphere they represent. For visitors, it's essential to understand this cultural practice. To avoid offending anyone, be sure to keep your distance from statues and altars, particularly in temples. Offering your respect through quiet observation is the most appropriate way to engage with these sacred spaces. 13. Religious respect. The high stakes of criticizing faith. Criticizing religion, gods, or sacred practices is deeply taboo, and it can trigger intense reactions, especially in religious communities. Religion is woven into the very fabric of daily life, with people following diverse faiths like Hinduism, Islam, Christianity, Sikhism, and others. For many, their beliefs are sacred and integral to their identity. Therefore, questioning or mocking deities or religious practices is not just frowned upon, it can be explosive. In 2016, an incident in Bangalore saw protests erupt when a social media post mocking Hindu gods went viral. The post, deemed offensive, led to massive street protests and calls for the arrest of the individual responsible. As tensions escalated, the authorities had to intervene to restore order. The situation sparked a nationwide debate on freedom of expression and the limits of criticism against sacred beliefs. This isn't an isolated case. Religious tensions have sparked violence before, like the 2002 Gujarat riots, which were partially fueled by perceived offenses to Hindu religious figures. The riots resulted in over 1,000 loss of life, many of which were connected to accusations of religious disrespect. These examples underscore the dangerous consequences of mocking sacred practices, where an individual's words can quickly escalate into violent conflict. In a society where religious respect is fundamental, any form of criticism is seen not just as an insult but as a threat to social harmony. Tread carefully when discussing faith. One wrong word can ignite a firestorm. 14. Crossing legs in front of elders, a serious offense. I believe this taboo exists in many countries, and that is the act of crossing your legs while sitting in the presence of elders or religious figures. This gesture can be interpreted as a sign of arrogance or disregard for the authority of those you're facing. It's deeply ingrained in the tradition of showing respect through body language, and sitting in a posture with your legs crossed, particularly when in the presence of elders or spiritual figures, might imply a lack of humility or disrespect. The proper way to sit in such settings is to keep your legs straight and your posture upright, signaling attentiveness and respect. For example, during religious ceremonies or when interacting with elders, it's common to sit with your feet flat on the ground, or sometimes in a more formal position like the lotus position, especially in temples or during rituals. In fact, crossing legs can be seen as a physical form of rebellion against the social order. So next time you're in India, remember to be mindful of how you sit. 15. Odd-petaled flowers, a spiritual mistake. Just remember to count the petals before giving flowers in India, otherwise you might unintentionally upset the balance. In Indian traditions, the number of petals on a flower holds significant meaning, especially during religious rituals. Flowers with an even number of petals are considered auspicious and are commonly used in offerings to deities or during ceremonies. The even-numbered petals symbolize balance and harmony, aligning with the spiritual energy of the rituals. In contrast, flowers with an odd number of petals are avoided in religious contexts, as they are believed to disrupt the spiritual harmony or invite bad luck. When offering flowers to gods or during festive occasions like Diwali or Holi, it's common practice to choose blooms like lotus or marigolds, which traditionally have an even number of petals. Offering flowers with an odd number of petals, such as certain wildflowers, can be seen as disrespectful or inauspicious. This belief comes from the idea that the universe itself is in balance, and anything that disturbs that balance, such as an odd number of petals, could upset the spiritual energies involved. This is why flower offerings, especially in temples or during ceremonies, are carefully curated to meet these symbolic expectations. So there you have it, 15 unbelievable taboos in India that you may not have known about. We hope this gives you a better understanding of the cultural norms and helps you navigate your interactions more smoothly. Keeping these taboos in mind will not only help you avoid any awkward situations, but also show respect for the local culture. Thank you so much for watching. We truly appreciate your time, and we look forward to bringing you more insightful content in the future. See you next time. Have you ever seen those photos of India's jam-packed trains? You might think that's as crowded as it gets. Think again. There's a place where the chaos goes far beyond, where folks risk everything to snag a spot on a train, racing through impoverished rural areas or cramped cities. Here, traveling by train isn't just a mode of transport. It's a battle for survival. They're sprawled on roofs, hanging off sides, and even wedged in the tight gaps between train coaches. A train built for a few hundred ends up hauling thousands, like a pulsing human chain, cutting through harsh land. Worse, it's a place where every day is a scramble to stay alive amid poverty, injustice, and despair. People wade into toxic sewers without protective gear, scraping for bits of gold flushed away. A filthy, dangerous job, but it's their only means of survival, with no other choice. This is Bangladesh, saddled with the sad, grim label of the world's largest brothel. What's driven Bangladesh to this edge? Is this just the fate of a Muslim nation? Through 15 raw truths, we dive into a story of grit, faith, and a relentless spirit, where every step forward defies impossible odds. 15. A nation crushed by density. Bangladesh is a land where space is a luxury few can afford, cramming 170 million people into 147,570 square kilometers for a population density of 1,265 people per square kilometer, ranking 7th globally. In stark contrast, the United States, with 341 million people spread across 9.8 million square kilometers, has a density of just 35 people per square kilometer, 36 times lower, offering vast open spaces that Bangladesh can only dream of. Dhaka, the capital, is the epicenter of this crush, housing 21.7 million residents at a staggering 60,277 people per square kilometer. Streets choke with millions of rickshaws, yet only 60 traffic lights, most broken, attempt to impose order. Traffic jams stretch for 4 to 6 hours daily, a grinding reality that traps commuters in a cycle of frustration. This density shapes every aspect of life, from housing to jobs, creating a pressure cooker where survival demands ingenuity. Why do you think such extreme overcrowding persists in Dhaka, and what might it take to ease this burden? Once a prosperous region under Mughal rule, Bangladesh fell under British colonial exploitation after the 1757 Battle of Plassey, setting the stage for centuries of economic stagnation. Today, its infrastructure, like the 1917 railway system, creaks under the weight of modern demands, with little modernization to match its population boom. Have you ever been to Bangladesh or a place as crowded as it is? 14. Dhaka, a city of chaos and resilience. Dhaka is more than just a city. It's a vibrant paradox where chaos and resilience intertwine. Its streets, teeming with rickshaws and pedestrians, seem to defy any concept of organized traffic. With virtually no functional traffic rules, simply navigating Dhaka tests one's patience and nerve. This sprawling metropolis, encompassing 360 square kilometers, is a constant struggle for its millions of inhabitants, competing for space, jobs, and essential resources. Yet within this apparent disorder, Dhaka pulsates with an undeniable energy. Markets overflow with vendors, mosques resonate with prayers, and tight-knit communities form strong bonds in the face of relentless adversity. As the heart of Bangladesh's Islamic culture, home to 148 million Muslims, the city carries a profound spiritual dimension, particularly during the Dhaka Pilgrimage Festival. This event, the world's second-largest Islamic gathering after Hajj, draws millions, transforming Dhaka into an immense and fervent expression of faith. In this travel documentary, Dhaka reveals itself as a microcosm of Bangladesh's broader challenges, a place where each day stands as a powerful testament to human endurance. The city's struggles, overcrowding, pollution, and pervasive poverty mirror the nation's own, yet its spirit remains unbroken, fueled by the enduring hope for a brighter tomorrow. 13. Legalized prostitution, a grim economic strategy. Since 2000, Bangladesh has legalized prostitution, regulating an industry that employs roughly 100,000 workers, including girls as young as 7. This policy, rooted in economic desperation, seeks to generate revenue in a nation where 22 million live below the poverty line. Brothels like Kandapara and Daulatia, under government oversight, stand as grim symbols of a system that commodifies human dignity to combat poverty. Women and girls, often trafficked or pushed by impoverished families, enter this trade to survive, facing relentless stigma, violence, and exploitation. The policy highlights a failure to tackle root causes, lack of education, job opportunities, and social safety nets, leaving vulnerable groups with no alternatives. Legalization has strengthened patriarchal and capitalist systems, benefiting brothel owners and the state, while female sex workers endure economic and sexual exploitation. Despite non-governmental organization efforts to provide healthcare and education for workers' children, social stigma and inadequate enforcement perpetuate the cycle of abuse. This harsh reality underscores Bangladesh's economic constraints, where survival often trumps human rights and dignity becomes a casualty in the fight against poverty. What do you think about Bangladeshi women? 12. The tragedy of child marriage. Bangladesh bears the grim title of Asia's highest child marriage rate, with 1/3 of girls wed before age 15 and 59% before 18. Poverty fuels this custom, as families see daughters as financial burdens demanding food, clothing, and hefty dowries. Marrying girls early shifts these costs, but at a devastating toll, education, autonomy, and childhood vanish. Many young brides, some barely teens, are thrust into households where they must serve not only their husbands but also their fathers-in-law, performing grueling domestic tasks and enduring patriarchal control. This dual servitude often traps them in cycles of abuse and subservience with little recourse. Dowries, typically gold, are cultural linchpins, with affluent families paying substantial sums to ensure better prospects for their daughters. In Dhaka's Tanjim Bazaar, 3,000 goldsmiths profit from this demand, but poor families, like Hassan's, borrow heavily or sell possessions to meet expectations, plunging deeper into debt. UNICEF reports that child brides face higher risks of domestic violence and health complications, with 22% giving birth before 15. Cultural norms and lack of enforcement perpetuate this crisis despite legal bans. Child marriage reflects Bangladesh's struggle with gender inequality, robbing girls of futures and chaining them to poverty's grip. 11. Train roof riding, a deadly gamble. The image of passengers perched on train roofs is synonymous with Bangladesh's transportation crisis. With interiors packed beyond capacity, many climb atop trains, braving a 2-meter-wide curved surface with no handrails at speeds of 30 kilometers per hour or more. A single misstep or rain-slicked roof can be fatal. Low bridges and narrow tracks add to the peril, yet roof riding persists, driven by necessity and a lack of alternatives. Though illegal, authorities turn a blind eye, acknowledging the impossibility of enforcing bans amid such demand. Each year, Falls claim lives, a grim toll that passengers accept as part of the journey. For young men like those selling snacks on train roofs, this precarious perch is a workplace, their nimble steps a dance with danger. This practice, born of overcrowding and poverty, is a haunting symbol of Bangladesh's systemic failures, yet also a testament to its people's willingness to risk everything for a chance at something more. 10. Slum life, trapped in despair. The sprawling slums of Dhaka, where a staggering 40% of the city's population is crammed together, serve as a harsh, in-your-face reminder of the deep-seated poverty that still grips Bangladesh. Take Korail, the granddaddy of them all. It's a mind-bogglingly dense world, packing around 322,000 souls into every single square kilometer. Imagine a landscape of pure filth, scurrying rats as common as pigeons in a park, and makeshift shelters cobbled together from whatever scraps people can find. While families like Hassan's might do everything in their power to avoid these grim zones, millions upon millions have absolutely no other option. They're stuck living cheek by jowl with mountains of festering garbage and the constant threat of disease lurking around every corner. Basic necessities that most of us take for granted. Things like clean drinking water that doesn't make you sick, even halfway decent sanitation, and a reliable flicker of electricity are brutally scarce commodities here. This lack of the bare minimum traps the residents in a vicious, seemingly unbreakable cycle of deprivation that stretches from one generation to the next. You see kids, barely old enough to tie their own shoes, wandering through this squalor, desperately scavenging for scraps of food or trying to hawk cheap trinkets to passers-by. Their futures, already fragile, are further dimmed by the almost complete absence of educational opportunities. The sheer density of these slums isn't just a local problem, it's a stark microcosm of Dhaka's larger urban crisis, amplifying already significant health risks and contributing to a palpable sense of social decay. And yet, even within these incredibly bleak confines, the human spirit flickers stubbornly. Tight-knit communities somehow manage to form, people sharing their meager resources with a generosity that's both humbling and heartbreaking. They cling to even the faintest glimmer of hope for a better tomorrow. The stark, almost unbelievable contrast between the abject squalor of a place like Korail and the vibrant, bustling energy of Dhaka's markets perfectly underscores the deep and pervasive inequality that runs through the very fabric of Bangladeshi society, a powerful and recurring theme that echoes throughout this entire narrative of struggle and resilience. 9. Rickshaw pullers, the human cost of labor. In Dhaka's bustling streets, rickshaw pullers are the city's heartbeat, peddling 90-kilogram vehicles through unforgiving traffic. Earning about $3 daily, these Bangladeshi workers toil 7 days a week, their bodies worn down by relentless strain. Years of grueling labor leave many with crippling leg and back injuries, cutting life expectancy to an average of just 40 years. Living in cramped shacks provided by garage owners unable to afford proper housing, they pour their meager earnings into supporting families, often with dreams of funding their daughters' dowries and education to break the cycle of poverty. The physical and emotional toll of rickshaw pulling is staggering, yet it remains a lifeline for millions in a nation flooded with cheap labor. Constant traffic accidents and ever-present danger further shorten already fragile lives, but these pullers press on, driven by love for their loved ones. Their story, a cornerstone of this travel documentary, lays bare the human cost of Bangladesh's economic desperation, where survival hinges on daily sacrifice. 8. Child labor and lost childhoods. Bangladesh's poverty steals childhoods, with over 450,000 street children fending for themselves. Boys like Atik, aged 7, sell food at train stations, racing against time to earn pennies before trains depart, supporting a father and siblings after their mother's death. Atik's life is a microcosm of the 33 million children living in poverty. Over half face extreme deprivation, with a 71.8% literacy rate among the poorest. Education, a distant dream, leaves many vulnerable to theft, violence, and exploitation. Girls fare worse, with 82.9% of street children facing abuse and 49.8% enduring workplace violence. These children, scavenging or laboring, embody Bangladesh's failure to protect its youngest, yet their resilience, playing in groups or dreaming of better days, hints at an unbreakable spirit. How can a nation so rich in culture and faith fail to shield its children from such hardship? This question haunts the streets of Dhaka, where innocence battles survival. 7. Sewer gold panning, a toxic trade. In Dhaka's gold market shadows, Bangladeshi workers plunge into foul sewers to pan for gold dust, a desperate and deadly trade. Monthly, they endure rancid stench and toxic chemicals, dredging sludge from drains behind jewelry shops. The grueling process, filtering mud, dissolving impurities with acid, and heating mercury, produces mere grams of gold, worth $11 after days of labor. Split among small groups, each worker earns under $4, a meager reward for risking lung, brain, and liver damage. Without protective gear, these panners face shortened lives, yet they toil on, driven by hopes of funding their children's education. Once a viable trade, sewer panning fades as gold yields dwindle, with only 50 workers left in Dhaka. This toxic cycle pollutes waterways and poisons communities, amplifying poverty's toll. 6. Economic stagnation and foreign dependence. Bangladesh's economy, still heavily anchored in agriculture and the garment industry, sadly remains one of the least economically developed nations in South Asia. Having carried the United Nations least developed country classification for over half a century, it's significantly reliant on foreign aid, a dependence that really highlights the ongoing struggle for self-sufficiency. It's a tough pill to swallow when you consider that this region was once quite prosperous. The decline really took hold during British colonial rule, where the focus was squarely on pulling out resources rather than fostering any real internal development. Fast forward to today and you see industries like garment manufacturing, while a major employer, often operate by exploiting incredibly cheap labor. We're talking about folks working grueling 15-hour shifts for a pittance, sometimes as little as $2 measly a day. This inherent economic fragility is a major driver of persistent poverty, severely limiting the country's ability to invest in crucial areas like modern infrastructure or a robust education system. Now, on the international stage, Bangladesh has pursued a commendable peaceful foreign policy, and while that's certainly fostered regional stability, it also deepens its ties to external financial support. This reliance naturally raises some serious questions about national sovereignty and the true pace of progress. The big question hanging in the air is whether Bangladesh can truly break free from this seemingly endless cycle of dependence, or will it remain perpetually tethered to the ebb and flow of international assistance? The answer, it seems, hinges on some serious systemic reforms, a monumental and frankly daunting undertaking in a country grappling with the sheer scale of its population and its many complex challenges. It's a situation where the desire for progress is definitely there, but the economic realities create some pretty significant hurdles to overcome. 5. Infrastructure in crisis. Bangladesh's infrastructure feels like it's straight out of a history book, a colonial-era artifact utterly overwhelmed by today's demands. Take the railway system, practically untouched since way back in 1917. It's creaking and groaning under the strain of millions of passengers, making delays and breakdowns just another part of the daily grind. And don't even get started on Dhaka's urban planning, or rather, the distinct lack thereof. This sprawling city, a mere 140 square miles, is bursting at the seams with a staggering 21.7 million people. The result? Gridlock that eats up hours, sanitation that's frankly inadequate, and a power grid that throws more fits than a toddler denied candy. Meanwhile, slums just keep popping up, an unchecked symptom of a system struggling to cope. This failure to modernize isn't just an inconvenience, it amplifies the everyday struggles of ordinary folks, turning simple things like getting to work or finding clean water into major hurdles. Even something as fundamental as healthcare, which can run you about $5 to $6 per visit, is simply out of reach for most citizens when you consider the average monthly income hovers around just $30.50. This infrastructure crisis, a constant backdrop to every single story we're capturing for this travel documentary, effectively traps Bangladesh in a never-ending game of catch-up. The ambition and drive of its people are palpable, but the crumbling infrastructure acts like a lead weight, constantly holding the nation back from realizing its full potential. It's a stark reminder that progress can only go as far as the roads, the power lines, and the basic systems allow. 4. Health and safety, a sacrificed future. Labor in Bangladesh is a perilous gamble with health and safety. Rickshaw pullers, peddling heavy loads through chaotic streets, face chronic leg and back injuries, their bodies breaking down by age 40. Sewer cleaners inhale toxic fumes, risking lung, brain, and liver damage from acid and mercury exposure. Factory workers, mostly women, endure 15-hour shifts in garment sweatshops where collapsing buildings and fires have claimed thousands of lives. A 2013 factory collapse killed 1,134 workers, exposing the lack of safety standards. Street children, 82.9% of whom report abuse, toil in hazardous conditions, from scavenging to street vending. Healthcare, costing up to approximately $5 per visit, is unaffordable for most, leaving injuries and illnesses untreated. With no safety regulations or protective gear, occupational hazards shorten lives, a silent epidemic eroding Bangladesh's labor force. Non-governmental organizations like the Bangladesh Rural Advancement Committee push for workplace reforms, but progress is slow. Workers accept these risks, driven by hope for their children's futures, embodying a tragic paradox. Resilience blooms, but at a devastating cost to health and longevity. 3. The plight of women and children. Women and children in Bangladesh endure the harshest weight of the nation's social struggles. Beyond child marriage, women face scarce opportunities, often funneled into prostitution or grueling low-wage jobs like garment work, earning as little as $2 daily for 15-hour shifts. Education, a key to empowerment, remains out of reach for most, with only 12% of girls in poor areas completing secondary school, perpetuating cycles of dependent. Children, especially girls, are profoundly vulnerable. 30.1% of street children face total deprivation, scavenging or laboring to survive. Boys toil to support families, while girls are wed early to ease financial burdens, often before age 15. These inequities, entrenched in poverty and patriarchal traditions, marginalize half the population, stifling progress. Yet glimmers of change emerge as parents sacrifice to educate daughters, defying norms in small but bold acts. Community programs, though underfunded, offer literacy and vocational training, planting seeds for empowerment. This struggle, woven into Bangladesh's narrative, underscores an urgent need for social reform to break the chains of inequality and give women and children a fighting chance for a brighter future. 2. The pilgrimage festival, Faith in Overdrive. Every year, Dhaka hosts a pilgrimage festival that rivals Mecca's Hajj in magnitude, drawing millions of Muslim devotees. This event is a spectacle of faith, but also a stark illustration of Bangladesh's logistical nightmares. Trains, the primary mode of transport, become human sardine cans, carrying thousands beyond their capacity. Passengers cram into compartments, spill onto roofs, and cling to the sides, risking death to fulfill a sacred duty. The railway, built in 1917 under British rule, is woefully outdated, with frequent breakdowns and unpredictable schedules. A 200-kilometer journey can take 6 hours or more, punctuated by 15 stops where crowds surge aboard, intensifying the chaos. For devotees preparing months ahead, the journey is a test of endurance, with no guarantee of a seat or even safety. The festival's scale, second only to Hajj, underscores Bangladesh's deep Muslim roots, but also its struggle to accommodate its faithful. How does such a massive gathering reflect both the strength and the strain of Bangladesh's cultural identity? The answer lies in the balance between devotion and desperation, where spiritual aspiration collides with physical reality. 1. Resilience and hope amid despair. Bangladesh's hardships do not tell its full story. Its people's resilience shines through relentless adversity. Across crowded cities and rural expanses, Bangladeshis toil in grueling jobs, pulling rickshaws, panning sewers, enduring chaotic pilgrimages, driven by dreams of brighter futures for their children. Many pour meager earnings into education, a beacon of hope in a nation where illiteracy traps millions. Parents sacrifice to send kids to school, breaking poverty's grip one lesson at a time. The Dakar pilgrimage, a chaotic yet profound display of faith, unites millions, reflecting a collective spirit that